And Are You Okay is a not safe for work podcast, so any young listeners are discouraged from continuing. However, we literally have no way to track that, so do whatever the hell you want and enjoy the show.
Anything to you, Matthew?
I mean, we're linking now. Like it's all in time right now. So
it's crisp and clean, no caffeine. That's what I like to say.
If any caffeine gets interjected, we'll figure it out. We always.
I'm gonna inject some caffeine right now because we're recording this in the morning. We normally don't do this. Normally we're like, 8, 9 o'clock.
Watches of the night.
Yeah. We're keeping our eyes out for the torches to be lit so that we can bring Gondor aid.
Gondor does need aid, and Rohan.
It does need aid. But that's another.
Speaking of Riders of Rohan that I still haven't seen yet.
Oh my god, yeah, we need to get on that. Speaking of, that's a different fandom. You know what? I guess I did it last week. So come right in, sit right down. Mikey's gonna show you the moon.
Because it's up
That's no moon.
What is it?
It's a Death Star.
Alderaan.
Blowing up your takes from outer space. We are here to talk Skeleton Crew. And we want to do that with you. Like and subscribe to our shit. Please at do. Annie, Are You Okay too?
Star Wars Podcast.
Boom. I am your co-hostess with the most hostness. Mikey Two Shoes, as Matthew likes to call me.
That's your name on my phone.
Qui-Gon Mitchell or Stormtrooper Dejeen. Don't make it weird.
Right, you decide who's who. Don't be weird about it.
Yeah, one of us is black, one of us is white, but that doesn't mean that we're not an Oreo that meets
plot
in the middle.
Twists.
And I'm joined with my other co-hostess to the most hostess. I got to get something on that. We're just gonna get sponsored by Hostess.
That'd be fire.
That'd be cool.
Be down for
that'd
that.
Be cool.
I'd be down. I like cookies.
But he is the rogue one, the rogue only.
Check them.
Matthew Porter, aka Matty Ice.
Hey, Smack Talk Skywalker, your main from the Grey Hoodie Gang, Broby One Kenobi, Mace Windu, C3P, bro, R2D.
There's
dude.
no shortage of nicknames for you.
I got them all.
And we're here to talk Skeleton Crew episode 5. I think we have a lot to learn about pirates. I don't know about you, Matt. But I think there's a lot more we can learn about pirates.
That's one of my favorite topics. I have a crossbone tattoo on me somewhere.
Well, Matt, I have a 10-second recap. We have stolen this from our sister podcast, Dragon Ball for Life. If you've been listening to the past couple episodes, we have it ready. Do you have a timer by chance set up for me to get started?
Sure do.
Let's hope I don't fuck it up, because last time I tripped over my words so bad I was like, maybe I'm not cut out for this.
I mean,
maybe I'm not meant to do a 10-second recap, but I'm gonna keep trying until I get this shit down.
Do or don't. There is no try.
There's no try.
You know. Are you ready, sir?
I'm ready.
And engage.
Parents be plotting. The crew discovers they're on the Onyx Center. They travel to a spa planet, find Rannod's lair, and Jod betrays them.
Oh shit, bro! You still had like 2 whole seconds. Good. Let's go. I like the Jod betrays them question mark because it's ambiguous.
It is a little ambiguous. I actually wrote down because I was going to scream at the end, thinking that I didn't have enough seconds left, but I felt like I got under the wire. So
yeah,
and I did.
You did. You literally had seconds left.
So I guess instead of obviously going through the breakdown like we used to do on our things, we have created a new segment here at Annie Okay. So we're going to hyper dive into that discussion.
Right in, fresh off the 9 to 5, not technically, but we still about to hit hyperdrive.
Hell yeah. We're on vacation, but we're still doing it.
I'm just always off on Mondays.
And I love that for you, Matt.
I do
love that for you. So we have a new segment here, one that, very inspired by Matt. I don't think I give you enough credit on this one, but it is,
I appreciate you, bro.
We'll pull the trigger for the good, the bad, and the Ugnaught.
Oh, I have a bad feeling about this. I have spoken.
Wow, wow, wow.
It's just not going to get old. We're just going
to... It never gets old.
It's a new segment on Any Are Okay, where we discuss something we liked, something we did, and something random that caught our eye. Plenty to discuss from this episode.
Yes.
So, Matt, I'm going to hand it off to you first, buddy. Tell me your good. Give me your good.
Oh, there was so much good with this episode. It is hard for me to choose, but gun to my head, I'm going to take back negative things that I've said about Wim's father, because I quite enjoyed his character arc in this episode. Just the straight-laced dad that has to break the rules to rescue his son, because we had said in the first couple episodes, and I know shout outs to Ray, the ruiner, who agreed with me, we don't know if it was intentionally done to make his dad just kind of seem like a noodle and not really a present father, and he was just playing the typical, would I say that?
I was just say, would you say that characters are developing? It's making everybody richer for the
story? Yes, I will say that, yes. I still will say there's something about the actor's delivery that maybe that's just him. I'm not really familiar with that actor, so that could just be him and his style that maybe made me feel I feel like he's kind of phoning it in. But I would say one of my favorite scenes, this is why this is my good, from this episode, was when he was trying to trick the protocol droid or the security droid when he was holding the USB drum behind his back, and he was just show me your hand, and then he did the one hand, he's like, other hand, sir. And then I love that the robot sighed, and he's just yeah, both plans, please. That was the greatest thing. I love
it's
the
one of those
frustration, but yeah,
that was classic Star Wars humor to me. It just fits within
so
the universe of other quirky things. But yeah, I love that, and I'm happy that you're coming around to Wim's dad. I think we were worried that the parents were going to be the weak link of the story, and I think that we're hopefully maybe going to be seeing the opposite occur.
Yeah, and I feel like this episode was a giant step forward in that, because all the parents kind of got busy on this down with the system to rescue our kids plan, which I'm extremely excited about. Even Fern's mom, who's in charge of their little pod, was just hey, give me some time to actually try to throw my weight around, see what could be done. And Wim's dad was just yo, that's clearly not working. Following the rules isn't working. What the fuck we about to do? And she's like, all right, well, let's get busy.
Can I ask you an aside here? Because I don't think it's going to come up anywhere else, but I want to make a connection to Captain Rannod and not being able to see his face in the hologram.
I have thoughts on that, yes.
Do you think that he is Fern's grandfather?
So either, which was my initial theory, that her grandfather might be something big, but yes, that was actually my Ugnaught, my thing that.
Oh, okay, all right. We will get there. We'll hold it and we'll discuss that a little further. I was concerned that we weren't going to bring it up, but it was something that on my second rewatch, I was definitely why aren't they showing him? Yeah. There's got to be a reason they're not showing him.
Yep.
So. Unless we're reading too much into it, but they even called it out. I think even
which we tend to do.
Yeah, I think even Neil was like why can't I see his face, or something like that. So, let me give you my good. And I know this is something listen, as a lore junkie, the human holocron, as we sometimes call me, it was just really great.
The re-educated.
Be kind, re-wise.
There you go.
It was great to hear the references to Scipio, which is the banking clan's home planet, and then when they cut to several scenes of the spa, you're seeing the Munes, who are mostly responsible for the banking clan, be the aliens that were in the mud baths. And I think there are several times throughout our history of recording episodes for Annie, Are You Okay? Where I've said,
The Star Wars podcast.
like, it'd be nice if they showed more of the aliens we knew instead of always trying to shoehorn in new ones, just as like little nods here and there. And they're a species that hasn't been seen in live action since the prequels. So, and technically we did just see one in the Acolyte, having Darth Plagueis be like that species. But it was for a split second. So it was just nice to see it again. And that to me was really rewarding as kind of like a long time like Star Wars watcher. Like if you watch the Clone Wars, you're aware of Scipio and how it plays into like the story in the prequels. And if you're a Legends fan, you know that like they kind of bankrolled like a lot of things for the Sith. And that's obviously an important aspect of like certain lore. So I think there's a lot to love for long-term Star Wars fans, and seeing it referenced and nodded to in this actually kind of like backed another theory I have for the show, which we're going to talk about later. But that was my good for this. So
Love
Matt,
it.
now that we've gone through our goods, why don't you give me your bad, or I guess something that you didn't like so much about this episode?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's not much that I didn't like about this episode. I pretty much like most of it, all of it, 99% of it to be exact. The 1% that I won't, I'll say this: it's a bad with an asterisk next to it, because we didn't see the deaths, so they possibly could still be alive, but I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan of how half of Wolfie's crew that came after Silvo got killed off screen. Yeah. Especially because, again, I've learned my lesson into doubting the Filoniverse, and Tommy always has a plan. Davey always has a plan, to quote Peaky Blinders. So I will always, I'm now learning to defer to his vision and what's going on in the Mandoverse, because they usually right the ship. And like we just said, Mikey, sometimes we create images in the tea leaves, which what we feel might have been a better story plot, but what we end up with is still enjoyable. So,
right.
Going back to what we had kind of talked about last week, I'm not going to tell you too much because then we're robbing ourselves of listens. So just go back and listen. So just a cliff note is I'm a bit confused as to what Tajad's storyline is supposed to be. Like, is it about him being a former pirate? Is it about him possibly being a Jedi and or a Sith? Spoiler for what we're going to talk about. Is it about the redemption of a villain turned hero, a hero turned, like, I'm kind of, it's a bit kind of up in the air as to like what his main story thread is supposed to be. And since the beginning, literally the beginning, the first scene of this show, his pirate background seemed to be like it was going to play a large part in it. Now, I do believe that there is going to still be some final confrontation with Wolfman and Jod, obviously, because he wasn't there for the acid bath. But having a lot of the crew members who are part of the mutiny, and Pockets, I loved fucking Pockets. She was so cool, yo. I thought she was
great character, cool design.
Yeah, so like having them get acid bathed. And again, we didn't see the body. So, Disney, no body, no death. That's literally a Disney rule. Well, a Marvel Disney rule. So that's why it's bad with the asterisk. But if they were didn't with an acid bath, then make him Keith. Then I'd be a little bit disappointed that there wasn't a bigger battle with those familiar faces who like mutinied against Silvo to like have that confrontation.
Yeah, I can definitely I agree with that take. It's certainly something where it's like, especially since like Jaleel White's character was there. There was some other. I didn't get a good look at all the pirates, but to have them all die there would be kind of shitty. And like you said, Pocket was a cool new addition. Like I don't want her necessarily to have been caught in the acid bath. So we'll see what happens there. I appreciate you putting an asterisk on it just so that we can kind of keep our eye on that bad, if you will, moving forward. So hopefully we're not just completely wiping all those guys out.
They did bad to that batch.
Yeah. I see what you did there. You're a regular. That was a Plan 99 if I've ever seen one.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? I'm saying?
All right, let me hit you with my bad. This is something that I think it just felt out of character and it bothered me a little bit. I would consider KB to be the smartest of like the crew, right? She's very analytical, and I really appreciated the kids having like their moments at the spa, jumping on the bed and all that stuff, and like they are still kids, and I get that, and that's fine. But there was one thing that she did that was really out of character to me, and when they confront Jod about not being like that, like Professor Gorksian or whatever, and I apologize, I didn't get the name of that. And he was like, and they're like, security guards are like, step away from the elders. She's the one who calls out,
we're kids. Yeah. Yep.
And it just felt out of character for me. Of course, she totally redeems herself. And this was something on first watch that like probably would have been my bad, but having rewatched it, I'm glad I did, because it completely changed how I interpreted the scene. When she pulls out the wrench and they're like, haha, what are you going to do with that? She literally, like, the camera even pans a little bit, but you see her analyze the different valves for her, and then she turns it to get the result that she wants. So that was really cool, and it was kind of like almost like an immediate redemption from that, but it just does feel out of character. I feel like that's something like Neil
I had that same reaction with her even pulling the mask down to be like, we're not elders, we're kids, and he's like, oh well shit, then you're under arrest too.
yeah So just something that I was just like, they should have had Neil do it and then let KB kind of like do her thing there. I think you could have given them both a moment at that, because like it does feel in character for Neil to be like, oh, why don't you just say you're sorry? Like, we're kids. Like, he's got too much honesty and integrity to like fool people like that. So
childlike wonder. He's too sincere. That's what it is.
But yeah, so that was my bad. Matt, why don't you move on to your Ugnaught?
Yeah, my Ugnaught. So, episode 1. I had mentioned that I found it interesting that they like referenced Fern's grandfather, and him being proud that she was going to be first in her class. With just that interaction that she had with her mom led me to believe that Fern's grandfather is someone of status within the world, because obviously her mom, I don't know. It's kind of unclear if she's just like the manager of their office where all their parents work, or if she like has like a bigger role on the planet of At-attin. Well, just mentioning her grandfather, like, oh, he'd be so proud, and you're first in your class and everything. So I was just like, oh, like maybe her grandfather's like the president of the world, or the home world, or whatever, ambassador to this system of cul-de-sac planets. I'm gonna come up with a good name for that. Planet cul-de-sac. I'll think about it. But then we get the introduction or semi-introduction of Captain Rannod, and we were talking about also something that we had talked about before, is they've left it very up in the air as to when SM-33's ship, which I forget the name of the ship already. Yeah, like
the Onyx Cinder. The
Onyx Cinder. Yeah, which is a mouthful to say. Like, I don't know. I'm like, whoever came up with that name.
Still shorter than the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah, that's facts. But those are two words that I understand completely. Like Millennium and Falcon. Onyx Cinder is a lot. I'm gonna just call it the Alexander. Name of this episode.
The Alexander.
Yeah, so we had talked about we just know that it was there, and it was there long enough that like nature kind of formed over top of it, so it had to be there for some point in time, and there were skeletons in there, so the body's clearly decomposed, so like we just don't know the length of time. But I don't know why when we had talked about this, I had always felt like it wasn't necessarily there as long as they wanted you to kind of think it was there, like, oh, it's been crashed.
Yeah, I do recall you saying that, because I was definitely under the interpretation, I'm like, no, it has to have been there for a while. Yeah, right? Like I think that was something where you and I were disagreeing, but your point is kind of leaning. There's more credence to your argument, because if my memory serves me correctly, I believe I had said something along the lines of like, if this is an extremely isolated planet, like how would no one have stumbled onto this at this point in time? Because it clearly looks like where they found that door seems like it's like a groove, like from the crash. Like it seems like there's like this path or whatnot. What have you? Yeah, I don't remember exactly what. Oh, you know what it was? I had said that like I found it suspicious that Wynn's dad found them so quickly. Like if they're supposed to be like lost in the middle of the forest, like he knew exactly where to go to find them and having it. And then I was saying too, I don't know if that's just a TV showing, or if there was like something more to that, and like people are aware of this crash site, and maybe it wasn't there
maybe it's been there a lot less longer than what we thought it was. So we get the introduction to Captain Rannod, and Jod clearly knows about him, which makes me feel like he existed in a time that Jod was alive. Like he was speaking about it as if he like, it didn't sound like it was like stories that were passed down. It seemed that like him being a pirate, that maybe he knew people who knew him directly. Like maybe if it wasn't his generation, it was just like one generation of pirates up. Like the elder statesman of the pirates who like would have like been telling him things throughout his journey. Maybe he first made it for somebody who served under Captain Rannod, so or something like that. But it didn't seem like he wasn't talking about it like, oh, like pirates of legends past, like black, like how we talk about Blackbeard and shit. Like it seemed more of like a, oh shit, I know this guy. Like what? This is crazy. He's so famous. He's the best of us. Like this, that, and the third. It felt more present tense conversation than like long lore conversation. So it led me back to, okay, why is At-attin the only planet that got their coordinates scratched out, which we do now know why. I kind of feel like I want there to be more than it just being an old Republic myth.
I agree. Yes.
Like I want it to be something more than just that. Like have that be a thing, but not the thing. Like,
well, if we marry our theories together, right?
I would love that.
There would be something to say that like he could have been on At-attin for a really long time,
and
that like there's some element of like, okay, he went there for the mint, but that's not
found
the actual
else.
treasure. It's like the fountain of youth for him to still be around for a long time, right? Because if he's human lifespan, I think we've, obviously the ones who are more attuned to the Force live longer, so that could, be something there. But at the same time, it's like, I just feel like Fountain of Youth is maybe like something I'm inserting as a MacGuffin because I'm trying to explain why it would be maybe like a longer period of time. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's kind of how I'm feeling, and I think that would bring our two theories together there.
Yeah, because the one thing that I'm a bit fuzzy on is with Captain Rannod, if this cul-de-sac of planets existed before and or after his crash, because a part of me feels like having 9 different twin planets, that's the smokescreen for At-attin. At-attin being like the important one. It was like, all right, let's make 9 other planets in this star system, make them look all identical. We'll keep it off the grid, but that's another security member. We'll keep it off the grid. We'll put force fields around all of them, but we'll have 9 different planets that all look and operate exactly the same. So like if somebody does find it, they don't know that this is that. Like it could be on the wrong planet. So it's like my lead theory is that Rannod might be Fern's, if not her grandfather, then maybe her great grandfather, if there needs to be a little bit more time spaced out between it. And it's like her family's lineage. Maybe Fern's mom doesn't know about it.
Right.
Maybe
and they're carrying on the mantle, right?
Yeah, without even knowing what mantle they're carrying on. Like maybe they've just, been entrusted to, like keep at maybe the lie is like, oh yeah, we just want to keep At-attin away from the Empire and away from war and everything. Like maybe that's the lie that they tell all the people, like, hey, this is why we don't operate with outside star systems. Like we want to do our own thing. We're avoid, because like the kids don't know shit about the war. They don't know nothing about the Empire. Like they're like so like lost in the sauce about all of that. So like maybe that's the cover up. Like, hey, like the Village. We had referenced the Village like early on in our reviews. Like maybe it's a situation where a bunch of people got together, or like that's the cover up. Like, hey, it's kind of like a reverse Village. So the Village was a bunch of people from modern times who created like this oldie Oregon Trail to get away from like money, like their money being the root of all evil and all that. That was like the twist. And the way that they covered that up was like saying that, oh, there's monsters in the woods, you can't go out past the woods because that's where the city was. So maybe it's like a flip to that. Like the monsters in the woods is like, oh hey, the Empire, we just don't want to get involved with the war, but really they're protecting something else on At-attin. So that's the part I'm a bit fuzzy about, like what came first, the chicken or the egg? Like did he stumble onto this star system and just like integrated himself amongst the people to like be close to whatever the treasure is if it's not the mint, or did he create all of this to protect the treasure?
Yeah.
But them not showing Rannod's face Jod knowing who he is in a more current sense, at least that's what I gathered from like him reminiscing on his stories, is that like these were like newer stories that he had heard about, or like I said, he knows people who knew that captain directly. It made me feel like, yeah, what if that's Fern's grandfather that would be so proud that she's first of his class? Or again, just to reiterate, if we need a bit more time, have that be like her great grandfather or just like an ancestor of her family line. But yeah, them choosing not to show his face, I feel like was done entirely intentional. Like I could see a situation where if they get back to At-attin, obviously we got to get through whatever it is that Jod chasing the kids with the lightsaber is going to create. But I could see a scene when they get back to At-attin, and like maybe I don't know if like Jod's holding them hostage or if he's like gotten back on their good side, or like the pirates show up to At-attin looking for Silvo, Jod, with all his different names or whatever. But I could see a scenario like where maybe they have to go like visit Fern's grandfather, and he's like sitting in a chair and he has to like turn the chair, and she's like, "Oh, grandpop," and Jod's is like, "Oh shit," like Captain Rannod.
Yeah.
She's like, "No, that's my grandfather." Like,
No, totally. I think that's
Captain
definitely
Rannod's
like,
granddaughter. Like,
and then all of a sudden he starts talking like this.
yeah. Or even SM33 goes, "Oh, Captain."
Yeah.
Something like that.
Protocol states that I have to serve me captain, even if I have another captain.
And really quick, so that we don't get killed in the comments. I know in the episode they said that Captain Rannod was betrayed by his concubine and stabbed with his own knife. So
yeah,
one, we don't know that to be true, or maybe because I thought that was an interesting point too, that they chose not to mention the name of his lady accomplice or his lady company. So maybe the concubine, maybe that's like Fern's grandmother, maybe, or like great grandmother, like maybe it's a matriarch that started all this, and like her grandfather that was his mom or some shit.
Yeah, I would say that SM33 is an unreliable narrator, and they've established that by essentially being like, no, you can tell droids to you can tell them to forget things. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think that's part of it, where it's like the mystery there is actually like built into the plot that they've established in the show so far, which is great. I like that they're, that's a thread that's weaved through many things, right? Like if we're trusting SM33 to be our like exposition, well, we can't trust what SM33 says, and we now have established that based on the last couple episodes. So I think that'd be a great way to kind of like resolve that. We'll see how it goes, I guess, moving forward.
And you really quick, because you just put something in my head. That I didn't even think nothing of that, like having an episode that is extremely lore heavy follow an episode where SM33 was lying for most of the episode. I feel like that is very interesting now that you've said that. Like I said, literally before this episode, the last episode, he was lying about shit until Fern unlocked his memories, and then you follow that up with him telling more of the captain's story. That could also be a fake story for sure. Which when they were saying it, my first thing was like, oh, this might be bullshit. But then again, I'm just really observant about like words that they choose to speak, because it puts me in like the writer's room. Like somebody had to write this dialogue. Why would you choose to like not identify the person that betrayed the captain, unless you don't want us to know what their name is, for like that to be revealed later, or for that person to like pop up and be like, hey, show up with the knife, and it's like, oh shit, that's the captain's knife. Like, oh, you must be the concubine. Or even like the kids asking, like, oh, what's a concubine? He's like, don't worry about that. But that was my Ugnaught. The fact that they went out the way to cover up Captain Rannod's face, Jod's memory of him, making it seem like he wasn't an ancient, old Republic pirate. It seemed that he was around more recently, and that he just, because even him saying like, yeah, he just did all the shit and then just disappeared. So it seems like he, like I said, if not Jod having adjacent interactions with him, then maybe he served on a crew with somebody who was like part of that crew, or like had worked with him before in the past. So but my lead theory is that that's Fern's grandfather and or great grandfather.
I am interested to see how it plays out for sure. And if you call it, then
you did say it pretty early on. Yeah, I did say that earlier on. And even I like the fact that if you go back and watch, not only can you not see his face, but like the image is a bit distorted. But when he's doing that recording, he's holding the lightsaber. Like
shit! I missed that.
Yeah, if you go back and watch, like he's holding the lightsaber in his lap, like when he's doing like his captain's log. So I thought that was interesting too.
That is very interesting.
Because at first I thought it might have been just like captain's booty, like like a keepsake, a treasure. but then it was just like, that's a really nice lightsaber, and it's like it's on a shelf and a mantle, like it was like a whole thing, and I was like, that seemed like it was something of like significant value. And then when they played the video,
if it was so significant, maybe he would have smuggled it up his booty.
Yeah, maybe. that's how it got into the lair.
It is quite phallically shaped.
That's perfect.
Ribbed for his pleasure.
You just gotta make sure he inserts it the same way that Neo was holding it, so that way the blade side isn't facing upwards.
Yeah. Dude, now, could you imagine like accidentally igniting it, and it's like now he's just like trying to like walk around, but he's got a big laser like sticking out his ass, and he's just like, oh god.
Look, you just sign your name in the snow, bro.
Yeah, so that'd be impressive. You're not even looking at that point.
That's his party trick. That's his bar tavern party trick.
Every pirate has a party trick, right?
That's the one.
It's gotta be his.
Well, what's yours, brother? That was my very long-winded Ugnaught. That I think Rannod is, like I said, the grandfather.
Mine's a lot shorter, but like I just gotta call out all the fun creatures in like the spa. Obviously, the hut, very fun, and like the fact that it was like, I love eating the waiter. Attendant.
He's like, no, not again, not again.
And then the Cthulhups, which I think I feel like from a naming standpoint, it has to be like a call to Cthulhu, like based off of like how that character was designed, but it very much like feels like never-ending story. It's like this creature that helps the kids along. I thought it was great, and I love how he was like, if I ever get to hear the end of your story, like that was just, it was very fun, like fit within that kind of like Amblin style storytelling. That was my Ugnaught for sure.
I was just gonna say, I could see an after credit scene where they like go back and like finish the story, or it's like, it'd be kind of cheesy, but I wouldn't be mad at it. What if like the after credit scene, like what if the show is just the kids retelling the whole story to that character?
That'd be really funny.
Like the whole show is just like their telling of the what happened after they left.
And he's like, I like the part where I helped you.
Yeah, that'd be hilarious. I would like that. It'd be super cheesy, but I would enjoy that.
Oh, extremely cheesy, but yeah, it'd be pretty funny. There's something that also the story that Wim was telling him, he was talking about like a droid control head, and like that is something that has like definitely happened. I think in Bad Batch and in Rebels, where it was like they used like or they had to like track that down. So I wonder if that story is like connected to it, or just kind of like an interesting nod like about it. But it was kind of like one of those like throwaway things where it's like, yeah, it's a line of dialogue, but like if you like really listening, like you picked up on something fun.
Here's something, you be saying things accidentally that like just be sending my brain into like, is that a plot hole or intentional? Where does Wim have his knowledge of all this Jedi stuff? Like, who's telling these stories to him?
And B, he's getting it from his storybook thing, like his like iPad, but where do they come from, right?
Where did they come from? And then it's just like, how do you not know about the Empire if you're getting stories about the Jedi and like their adventure?
I can explain that for sure. Okay. Like from a lore standpoint, if At-attin is tied to the Old Republic, the Jedi have existed for thousands of years,
Sith were
right?
missing for many millennia.
Yeah. Well, even then, like if let's just say that like the lore of the Jedi is in storybooks, and it's in the Old
dogmatic
Republic.
view of the Jedi.
Yeah, the Sith could still exist in those stories, like I would be willing to, and I think that's the other aspect of it, right? Like when they talk about the Old Republic, like, they're not referencing the Republic that we're familiar with from the prequels. They're very much, I think, referencing further back. Like I know
that makes sense.
Like Revan era type Old Republic. That's how far I think they're going.
Gotcha.
So,
gotcha. That makes sense.
Which is probably why the money is more valuable, right? Like, if we're gonna like equate it, like obviously the Republic credits transition to Imperial credits, and now the Imperial credits have no value. But the Old Republic might be using some sort of monetary system that is like based in like a harder truth. Like if we're going to compare it to like real life, just for an example, not to break the immersion here, but like there used to be the gold standard, and now that gold standard is not quite the same, right?
Sure ain't.
Dollars are just promises now. And I would be willing to bet that like they modeled the financial system of the Star Wars universe similarly after our own, because what else would we have to go off of? So that might explain why the Old Republic credits hold so much value, and they've been used to be as good bribes. It's something that like actually the pit takes as enough monetary value to get rid of the acid so that they can walk through with one credit, right? But that's just my thoughts on that.
No, that makes complete sense. That if his stories are in an era where the Sith like either didn't exist or like were intentionally like, you know, omitted from stories or like just portrayed in a different way, that makes total sense. But yeah, then I guess just my original question still stands. Like, you know, like where did he get this iPad that has these stories in a world that seems cut off from that lore,
from the rest of it? Yeah.
So
and I think that like when Wim's dad says like, have you reached out to the Republic? They know the Republic exists, which means that they are also aware that the Jedi once were a thing. But the more time that passes, the more the Jedi sounds like a storybook.
And they do trades, don't they? Didn't they? I feel like they said in the episode that like the only outside communication that they do is like trading of goods. For some reason that's in my head.
Think I might have completely. I could be wrong, but I don't think they did. I think that they're a self-sustained planet.
Yeah. I swore there was something along the lines of, and again, I could totally be making this memory up. I smoke. So yeah, but I thought when in a conversation about, you know, like reaching out for help to find the children, I thought there was something in the dialogue where it's like, oh, like that's only approved for like trading purposes. Like I said, I could completely be making that up. Like, but for some reason it feels like a memory in my brain.
We're going to strike it from the record.
Yes, yeah, word. All
right, let's move on to our main
by the next episode,
topic.
I'll have confirmation as to whether that was really said. Yeah.
Matt's going to listen back, just like you should. Please help our listeners.
Always.
All right, so Jod's ability to quote unquote use the Force has created a rift.
I forgot we had a mega topic.
I know, right? So this rift between you and I, Matt. So I believe Jod maybe
it's not a rift. It's like a disturbance in the Force. It's not a disagreement. It's not a rift.
It's gonna create a conversation for us.
Friends become enemies. Enemies become friends.
Yeah. Matt, you have stated that you feel more and more that Jod isn't Force sensitive at all. We're going to take this opportunity to make our cases for those things. Do you mind if I go first?
Please.
I think you might have more evidence than I do. So.
Can I give just a bit of a disclaimer, but I do want you to go first.
Yes, yeah, that's fine.
So I'm still my initial because we had the conversation last week, and I won't shoot the load too much because pre-production, I know what you're gonna say. So, but I'm still leading with that he is Force sensitive. That's still, but it's like before I was 100% sure. Now I'm like 51% sure.
Okay. You can have your disclaimer. Let me see if I can convince you of my theory here. All right. So we had talked about this. We knew a Jod betrayal was coming and how things. I just don't think it played out the way we were quite expecting it.
Can we give each other our flowers really quick that we predicted almost every single story beat of this episode last week? I would just
Matt? We are critically thinking our way through a narrative that is quite derivative. However, it's still a fun ride, but it is a little derivative. So, I think his betrayal was a little more sinister than we anticipated, and there's hints throughout this. Jod knows way too much about the Jedi Code. Is literally pulling a quote from the Phantom Menace, where Qui-Gon's like, "Your focus determines your reality." Like he knows all of those things. And let me tell you what it made me think of. Palpatine says to Anakin in the prequels, to understand the Force, you must learn all of its aspects, right? So it lended credence to me that Jod could be parroting a bunch of Jedi talking points to manipulate Whim, which to me feels very Sith coded. He's preying on the ambitions and wills of others to get what he wants. That is internal or inherently selfish. And the Sith are inherently selfish. And if I'm going to be putting my flag in the ground of it might be a fountain of youth, the Sith want nothing more than to live forever. Jod, his methodology, the way he's going about things, may seem goofy, but I also throw out there that we have not always been accustomed to, but it happens from time to time. Have you ever played a fighting game where there's he's just a drunken guy and he has this weird moveset, but in reality he's a martial arts master, and it's all a fucking ploy to make you think that he's not as dangerous as he seems. And I think that Jod is very dangerous because he's going about all these things in an odd way, but he's master manipulating. It's gotten past the point for me that he's not just a smuggler who's a little slippery and knows how to do things. I think that he's manufacturing this to move forward the way he wants it to, and he's taking advantage of everyone he can on his way towards At-attin. And to me, the pirates were a very easy way for him to kind of push forward to discover this, because it's something that they were already actively after. But pirates are also easily manipulated because of the code that they have, where he can challenge anyone at any time to defeat them. And he quite literally is, I don't want to say bloodthirsty, but able to subdue people from a fighting standpoint. And we haven't quite seen it, and maybe that there's an intention of why they haven't quite shown us.
Yeah, because when he fights for the first time, he's gonna go off.
That's what I'm saying, and I think that's going to be a big deal. And I think that to be able to fight like that, and the way he's been acting in an aggressive nature, just to me reads as very Sith-like behavior. And then from a mental standpoint, his manipulation feels very dark side coded. So that is why I truly feel that Jod might be a Sith all along. And I will say this, while it may be unlikely, it would be a really interesting way to connect these stories to the larger narrative of the Mandoverse and provide us an actual Sith Lord for Ahsoka, Ezra, and Sabine, and everyone really, to go up against that allies himself with Thrawn.
Before I get to my point, you might have just created another bridge that I've been searching for this whole time. These are the droids that I've been looking for. So
hell yeah.
Since you've been on this Fountain of Youth kick, I've been rolling, but in my head, the only skepticism that I had was just that's a really big thing to introduce. And I've been struggling with how that would work in the Star Wars universe. Introducing the elixir of life for a property that we've already gone ahead of this point in time, with the sequel trilogies and everything. I was just damn, how would that play into what we saw in the continuation of the Skywalker saga? So I was just damn, I really like that, but where would it fit? You just fucked me up, bro. You just fucked me up. Going off of your theory that everything in the Mandoverse happens chronologically, so it's going in order that as we see it on screen is how it has happened.
Is how it goes
in their universe. The Fountain of Youth could be the final ingredient to Project Necromancer. That could be the thing that brings Palpatine back. That combined with Grogu's DNA, that being the lead theory, Grogu's the Force sensitive person, that they use his DNA to bring Palpatine back. What better thing could be done to give life again than a Fountain of Youth type situation? So that could 1000%, because we said this, I don't remember if it was the first episode that we did that we reviewed, or when we were doing our pre-show episode, we've been saying that, like, hey, this show seems like it's a super standalone story, but we've been feeling like they might interject something to connect this to the Mandoverse, like through line, whether that be a character or a plot point. We felt like something or someone was going to show up at some point before that last episode or on the last episode to connect it to what's going on with Mando and Grogu. I could 1000% see, like, if there is like a life source on At-attin, like, I'd have to figure out, or like they'd have to figure out, which I don't think would be that hard, how the First Order or what will become the First Order finds out about this. Maybe like with the pirates, once they find it, because I feel like a showdown on At-attin's like inevitable. I feel like that's a big thing that's going to happen. So maybe that information about that fight that takes place gets out, and that's when people are like, oh shit, At-attin, we've heard about this. Or if Jod is a Sith, that information gets out to the what will become the First Order, like, through him. But you've kind of sold me that could be like that'd be a perfect place for that to be. That'd be a perfect way for them to introduce something that big, like, because like that's a game changing thing, like a source that creates life, like that's like Force Dyad big. That's like introducing something into Star Wars lore that's like could be a game changer or can be a reused thing in the future. So it's like this being chronologically in line with Mandoverse, where we know like the big thing that the Moff was doing is like their Project Necromancer is the big thing, having like a fluid or a force sensitive area or whatever it is, that would be the thing that gives life or
midi-chlorian
life.
Focus.
A midi-chlorian pool. Like midi-chlorian sounds like chlorine.
I also think
pool.
From a production standpoint, you can definitely mention this in like a few lines of dialogue without it being like over explanation. So if you didn't necessarily watch Skeleton Crew, but you're like a big Mando fan, you're kind of like going through things that way, this story enhances your viewing experience, which is to me the biggest attribute that any shared universe has, but is not necessary viewing, which also makes it kind of like, one of those things that, like, from a story standpoint, I think would benefit the Mandoverse. So I really do feel that, like, strongly about Jod being a Sith. If that Fountain of Youth thing ends up becoming true, I'm going to be way too hype on being right, and I apologize in advance for that.
Hey, bro, I do it all the time.
But I know that there's a piece of you, 49% to be exact, that feels that.
Yeah. I had to get that theory out because, like I said, I've been trying to connect the dots again. Just been like, because I like the Fountain of Youth or Fountain of Youth adjacent things. Again, I just been like, that's something major. How would that not be a thing in the sequel trilogies? And I was like,
because At-attin could get destroyed at the end of this. Like maybe the kids make it their way off the planet and there's a happy ending for them somewhere, but that doesn't mean that At-attin comes out unscathed.
It could get the Alderaan treatment. At-attin.
But Matt, tell me why you think the 49% of you feels Jod might not be force sensitive at all.
So, a conversation that we had over the phone the other day that we had to cut abruptly short so that we didn't do this whole episode via phone call, not recorded.
They can't. The audience can't be mad at us for being friends.
So yes, I know, right? They're like, fuck it, you guys talk about this shit not on the microphone. Like, we feel left out. So we were talking about last week's episode, which again I won't tell you too much, so then you won't have to go back and listen. That when Jod inevitably betrays the kids, they hadn't yet had a moment of connection that we felt would make that betrayal hurt. Or sting is the word that we used. And just like clockwork, we see this very I won't say paternal, but just I'll
say intimate
scene. Yeah, intimacy. I don't want to go that far and say intimate because I feel like you like us saying, like it felt from Jod's perspective, it felt I don't want to say manipulative, but it was just like, all right, let me. It felt strategic. That's the word that I would say. It felt a bit strategic to have that conversation with Wim, because it's like he's kind of had like these individual moments with each kid, where it's kind of like a peer mentoring type of situation. The Big Brother program at the Boys and Girls Club. That's what we'll say. So he had like a Big Brother moment with Wim, where Wim went off to cry, and he had his tie from Digimon "This isn't fun anymore" moment. Like I said, he would. Yeah. He was crying to himself how he missed his dad and how he always wanted to go on adventures, but he doesn't like it. It's scary. It's dangerous. He wants to go home. And Jod sits down and has this conversation with Wim. Great conversation, and a very interesting detail about his clothing caught my attention. So this is a moment where these people have spent a considerable amount of time together. They've literally avoided death and or capture and or both several times. Mm-hmm. So whether they're friends or not, they have a bond. They have a shared experience that they all can relate to because they're going through something together, which creates camaraderie. So they're in the ship traveling to their next destination, the sex planet or the spa planet. Sorry. Did you feel like it was a sex planet and not a spa planet? I feel like the whole time until they landed, there's it's only for adults. Like, it's a pleasure ship.
It's a pleasure planet. Like planet. What else can you do?
Yeah.
I mean, Captain Rannod is shoving lightsabers up his ass. What else is the planet for?
Look, exactly. So I found it interesting that Jod had his gloves on in this scene. Like it's just him and Wim. They're in the house, for lack of a better word. His jacket's not on, his scarf's not on, his vest's not on, his knife's not on him, but he's wearing his gloves. And it made me go back and look at some things. The only time that Jod has ever done force activities, gloves have been on his hand. And then I was just like, wait, but how could he have been wearing gloves when he was in prison when we first see him? So I went back and watched Jod's introduction. He has scarves wrapped around his hands, and you can only see his fingertips. And it made me feel like that's very interesting that his hands are always, or his palms specifically, are always covered when he force pulls. And he only force pulls objects. We've never seen him push a person. We've never seen him do a Jedi mind trick to a weak-minded individual. We've only seen him pulling keys, turn off lights, give Wim his iPad. He pulled it to him and pulled with the iPad, which I loved how they did that. I love how when he was talking to Wim and he was like telling him how to like get over like his grief and everything, how he like was like, he's like, number one, you got to do this, and then he's like, number two, and then he did the force sign, and then he lifted. I thought that was really cool. I like that a lot. It was like the Obi-Wan 2-finger force pull.
Yeah.
And I thought it was dope.
Or when he opens the door.
Yeah, exactly. But I just found that extremely interesting that the only time he's only done it on objects, and he's only ever done it when he has either his gloves on or, like I said, when he was in prison, he has scarves around his hand. And it took me back to before this show even started. You had said that he reminded you of Kanal's character, whose name I don't remember, from Obi-Wan. Paja, yeah, who was using magnets and tricks and switches and controls to trick people into thinking that he was a Jedi. So then I was just like, could he have some type of implants in his palms that allow him to pull metal things? Because at first I thought it was the gloves. When me and you had talked about it on the phone, I was just like, yeah, he's only ever pulled things with his gloves on. And again, the fact that he's having this intimate moment in the house with women, like had his gloves, it felt really weird that he'd be wearing gloves. And then even like in the way that the shot was framed, how they're sitting on the floor and like he's like, telling him how to do the Greek, he was talking a lot with his hands, which I thought was interesting. It's like, you're sitting down, you're relaxed, but like his hands were in the shot. It was like close-up shot, and they're and for me, it felt like it was they were making a point for you to see that he had gloves on his hands, which again, I don't wear gloves when I'm sitting in the house with my kids, so I just thought it was weird. But again, that could be me over-analyzing the tea leaves to see what I want to see. But then when I went back and watched the first episode where he's introduced, or second episode, second episode, doesn't matter. Went back.
Second episode.
Yeah.
And the third one is where he pulls... no, it might be the end of the second. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it might have been the end of the second. But yeah, again, just... because I was just like, again, I was like, yeah, he couldn't be wearing gloves in prison. Or I'd be like, damn, that's a really big processing error on this pirate planet that they didn't take his gloves off his hands. So again, yeah, so I go back and he's wearing all these robes. And again, like he has scarves wrapped up to around his fingers. Like you just see his fingertips. And that's when he pulls the key. So yeah, I was just like, maybe he has implants in his palms.
He could be a mod too. It's not unprecedented. People get their hands cut off all the time in the Star Wars universe. Exactly. And we've seen flesh-covered implants.
Yeah,
because Luke has one.
Luke has one. Yeah, he has a flesh covered hand. So I was just like, maybe he has scars on his palms that allow him to pull objects, like metal objects. Because again, I've never seen him do it with food, i.e., Anakin in episode 2. Like I said, he hasn't pulled any people, but again, we haven't seen him fight. They always, anytime he's about to get into like a big kerfuffle, they don't show that scene. So he could pull and pull. And they said this could all be intentional design. It could be a red herring, like because we had talked about this this episode. One of my things that I had listed, I don't remember if it was my it might have been my Ugnaught, where I was just like, they've kind of, the first 2 episodes were very focused on Jad being a quote unquote Jedi or Force sensitive. Like, he would do stuff, turned off the light when he was talking to KB at the end of the night, when he was like, trust your gut, turned off the light with the Force, the pulling of the keys. But then we had mentioned to each other, like through a couple episodes after that, they kind of got away from him doing, like focusing on him doing Force shit. He would just do like little small things here and there. Again, like turning off the light, grabbing something, pulling something. But it kind of just felt like, it just felt like a verb. It's just like, oh yeah, Jad's just doing the Force. Like it didn't feel like he was like, it didn't feel like he was using the Force. It just felt like he was like just doing the Force every now and again for like rudimentary activity. So it was just like, oh, okay, cool. Maybe he's just Force sensitive. Maybe he was gonna train and then Order 66 happened. Maybe the day that he signed the papers, like Order 66 happened. Yeah, right. And he couldn't get trained. So. But then I said like that him wearing gloves while in the house just felt weird to me, and then just went back. So I was just like, maybe he has scars on his palms for these mods or implants that allow him to pull things. And then again with the final shot of him Force pulling the lightsaber, again a metal object, and he's wearing these gloves. So again, 51% of me still feels like he's a Force user. And another thing that adds to the 49%. Because when we were talking about, him possibly using like, well, you were saying like magnets or things like that. I've always loved like that deep bass rattle when like people use the Force. I feel like it's really turned up loud when he does it. Like when it's like,
okay.
Like it's like really like a featured moment, like when he uses the Force that you
so
hear. So
there's
the
magnets in his hand, but speakers in his pants. I got you.
Maybe not necessarily speaker, but I feel like like.
But a subwoofer. Right.
In the trunk, speakers going bammer. But yeah, we're so used to the Force noise. It's just like, it's like white noise. It's such a calming sound to Star Wars geeks. But I feel like watching the Star Wars movies or just watching like a Jedi or a Sith do the Force. Do the Force might be the name of this episode.
I think I'm gonna have to.
No, you know what? Do the Force, Alexander. That's the name of this episode. But yeah, I just feel like when Jad does it, like. I don't know if it's just like the absence of like background music or like I just feel like that sound is like really highlighted when he uses it. And again, that could just be me over analyzing the tea leaves, which we've been known to do throughout these Star Wars properties, i.e. Book of Boba Fett. For like every episode we were coming up with things that should have happened that didn't. But that's neither here nor there. But yeah, so 51%. I do think he's a Force user. I do think he's a Sith as well. I don't think he's a Jedi. I feel like that's why he keeps skirting around the question of being a Jedi. And he was just like, oh, I never actually said Jedi. I feel like that was a very intentional. He's like, you called me a Jedi. I didn't say I was a Jedi. So I feel like that was very intentional. But again, it's just the fact of his hands being covered anytime he uses the Force, him only using it to pull metal objects, and like that Force sound is like really prominent when he does it. It makes me feel like they're overcompensating to like make us think that he is actually using the Force. When we get the reveal, he's not. But then again, the overly critical side, the 51% is like, damn, maybe they want me to think that they're trying to trick me into thinking that he's not a Force user. And
while our speculation is a bit wild, at least we provided some reasons to back up our theories. It's
1,000%. I just don't want to be smoked again. That's all.
I know. I hear you. Hey, we're trying to make logical jumps, and sometimes our jumps are a little high. I'll admit mine's a little high.
But I like. I feel like it's one of the two. I feel like we can agree that we both think he's definitely not a Jedi.
I agree. Yeah.
We can
so how it plays out will remain to be seen.
Exactly.
but yeah, I definitely think that not a Jedi is 98%.
To go along with your Sith theory, I feel like the intent to have the color of the saber be blue feels extremely intentional if he is a Sith user, because the last time we seen a Sith user with a blue lightsaber was Anakin Skywalker. So I feel like that would be in very, because they could have made that blade, because that seems like a old temple guard blade. It could have been yellow, like could have been white, like, but they chose to make it blue, which I was just like, oh, like having a Sith use a blue lightsaber is extremely poetic. Great callback. So I feel like, yeah, that being a blue saber definitely lends to that theory. But yeah, 51% going with the Sith, 49% he has mods in his palms and he's covering up the scars.
Yeah, that would definitely be interesting. I like the key in and the research you did to go back and see, like, did we actually see his hands? And we do not. So I love that. Well, Matt, it's always fun talking Star Wars with you, but we have to say goodbye at certain times. We can't speculate forever.
Boo! Yeah. Rubbish! Boo!
While I trust you to do our outro before we leave, I'd be remiss to say, hey, you can definitely follow us over on Instagram at our social. Matt is _menace to sobriety. I am Mikey _the illest, and we also have obviously the Annie Are You Okay pod page, which is the letters A and I Are You Okay pod on Instagram, and we used to be on Twitter, but I'm actively not there. So you can find me on Blue Sky at Mikey the illest. I'm also kind of like helming as the Annie Are You Okay like socials over there. Happy to interact with you. Hope we pick up some listeners from there. Feel free to reach out about us and what you think about our theories and whatnot. But we also have a sister podcast, Dragon Ball for Life, where Matt and our good buddy Travis talk all things anime. They're currently covering the Dragon Ball Daima episodes as they come out in sub, and I know it's getting pretty spicy over there in terms of what's been happening. Some very, very fun things, so definitely check that out. And if for whatever reason you happen to be listening to this, it is the Monday before our Cospalooza dance party in Philadelphia.
Part 3, baby!
At Milk Boy, the Chestnut Street location. We have a great time. It is cosplay encouraged, but not required. So please come out if you're interested in anime, pop, some emo tunes get thrown in there as well. It's a great time. See some cool cosplay, hang out with some great people. We have free stickers that we give away, and it's also just like an awesome time out with your friends. Come be your nerdy self with us on January 4th at Milk Boy.
Yes.
If you're listening
the
to
Chestnut Street location, the Chestnut Street location, not the South Street location.
If you're local and you're listening to this, post that. Well, maybe
come to the next one.
Yeah, but in the meantime, you can follow our endeavors at Dragon Ball for Life at DB4L_pod on Instagram. That is where we were most active, and obviously we got a lot going on over there. So without further ado, Matt, why don't you close this bad boy out?
I got you, good brother. Well, Animaniacs, it's like we say in this galaxy not so far away. It could be the champions of the NFC East. It could be Beauty and the Beast. It could be the more, never the least. It could be, hey, I can't really eat that cake. I'm allergic to yeast.
Yeast? I thought you meant weast.
Or it could be Ray. Life can be a beach. And you guessed it. As long as there's no sand, Annie gonna be okay.
Okay. May the force be with you, Matt.
And with you. Later, nerds. Annie, are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay, Annie? That's my favorite part of that. And we out.